welcome to Collective Rising Conversations, the podcast where we dive into stories of transformation, healing, and growth to help raise the collective consciousness. I'm your host, Nick Motichka, and I'm so excited to share today's conversation with you. Our guest today is someone who truly embodies resilience and the power of transformation. Lance Essihos is the best-selling author of Mastering Adversity and the creator of the University of Adversity podcast, where he shares profound insights and inspiring stories to help others turn their struggles into strength. From navigating personal loss and trauma to building a platform that empowers countless lives, Lance has a unique ability to reframe adversity as an opportunity for growth and healing. His work is not just about overcoming challenges, it's about thriving because of them. In today's episode, we'll explore Lance's journey, the lessons he's learned through hardship, and how his mission aligns with the raising of the collective vibration. So grab a cup of whatever you drink and settle in. Let's dive into this transformative conversation with the one and only Lance Essihos. Hello. Welcome to Collective Rising Conversations. We have Lance with us today from the other side of the world in Vietnam. How are you doing, buddy?
Good to be here, man. Yeah, really good. I'm in Da Nang, Vietnam. So it's pretty interesting. We were just talking about how crazy it is that we can talk around the world like this. It's pretty nuts.
Yeah, it's really an amazing time to be able to harness this technology in order to, well, not only communicate, but to gain knowledge and be able to be exposed to other opinions and other, just information that we wouldn't have otherwise been able to access at any other point in our history. So it's not, of course, without its challenges, but it definitely has some big positives as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's being able to communicate with other people and, share their stories and do all that has been such a big part of my transformation over the years of just having a podcast, like what you're doing now, and just the ability, especially during like the crazy times of like the pandemic, to be able to get on and like talk to people. And just, there's so much that happens from these conversations that I don't know what my life would be like without doing that. So this technology and just being able, it's just getting better and better. And like we said before, it's really important to sort of know the good side of it, but also be aware of where it can kind of suck you in and it work against you. So just like anything. But yeah, I'm grateful, and I'm grateful to be able to be here with you to chat and just see where it all goes.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously you've been on a journey of your awakening and then healing and all of the things to get you to a point where you're living in Vietnam. And so I just love to hear from your perspective how you've gotten to this point and how we can use our adversities and those challenges and those seemingly really difficult things that happen to us. How can we use those to inspire, to uplift, and to really just get on that path to our purpose and our highest selves?
Yeah, I think that when we know we're destined to do big things in life, there is going to be a time where each level that we want to rise to, we're going to be met with something that is going to test us, because we may not be as skilled in that area, or we may not have the emotional stability, or we may not have whatever. And the adversity that shows up is usually something that is almost like an invitation to be like, okay, this is what you've asked for. In order to get to where you want, you have to get through this stuff first. And you have to become the person that you say you want to be first, because it's about becoming who you want to be in the process. So in order to grow and to transform, we have to go through things. And I've realized for me, just like anybody else, we all have to go through challenging moments to grow, right? And for me, happens to be, my brand, and what I've been talking about for years is, realizing the importance of what is adversity and why do we have to go through it, and how do we go through it? And it's been interesting to me to just learn that all of the great people, successful people, anybody that's created a big mission has all had to go through different things. And it's just kind of part of it. I've accepted it. And for me, there's been so many different layers. And even up until this point, to get me to where I am, there's still layers that I'm going through now, because to get to where I want to go, I'm met with things that are challenging me now to become the person that I want to be. So it's almost just becoming part of the process and accepting it, that this is what I asked for. And if I want to become the person and the big mission and fulfill the purpose of who I want to be, well, then I can't do that from my current state, the current habits, the current belief system. In order for me to become that, I have to grow, and I have to face certain things that I may have not wanted to face. And that has been sort of my journey. And I know you've gone through a lot of this stuff too. And I was just thinking about this actually last night, about how, we ask for things, I'll speak for myself. You pray for things, miracles to God, the connection to universe. And we think about what's that going to be, the feeling of becoming that, and what's that going to feel like? And then what happens is, while you're getting what you asked for, things have to be rearranged to give you what you asked for. So sometimes things have to crumble. People, situations, jobs, whatever it is, there has to be a death for the rebirth to happen. And sometimes, even though you are getting what you want and what you asked for, those moments that adversity comes, feels like things aren't working out. But in reality, it's just rearranging what it is that you want, because the current situation and the current life isn't going to bring you that. So I think for the listeners, especially, collective rising, when you're rising, when you're wanting to elevate your life, you're wanting to grow and transform, well, the old part of you, a lot of this stuff is going to have to die. There's going to have to be a death and a rebirth, and then integrate that into your new self as wisdom. Because when there's no emotional charge attached to the events of the past, the trauma, or whatever, it becomes wisdom. And I guess it's just about being okay with the destruction that's coming to make room for the stuff that is on its way. So that's kind of how I look at adversity, and I try and put myself into those positions when I say to myself, anybody can show up and have all the tools and the mindset and all of this stuff when things are good. But when you're challenged, when your back is up against the wall, how do you show up? Because that is when it determines if you're actually fully being honest with yourself in what it is you want. Because that is really what defines us, is when adversity hits, how do you show up? And so that's kind of how I based my life, and how these are the things that I say to myself constantly when things aren't going as I wanted them to, or as planned, as we all go through this stuff, is that you have to just kind of reflect on it, and there's a lot of introspection and a lot of awareness that comes from that. But yeah, it's a fun journey, and I wouldn't want it any other way.
Yeah, absolutely. No, so much of what you just said resonates. And yeah, I firmly believe that we need to have those challenges, and we need to overcome them in order to become that highest version of ourselves that, like you said, we say that we want, but we just kind of I think, hope that it's just going to come easy and it's just going to be a, naturally unfolding, pleasant experience. And that certainly hasn't been my experience through my healing journey, and definitely doesn't sound like it's been yours either. And so I'd love to hear just a story or a personal experience that you've had about adversity and something that specifically happened to you, and how you dealt with it and how it got you to where you are today.
Yeah, so there's a few, but well, okay, we'll talk about the loss. So I lost my younger brother when he was 18 to suicide. And then I lost my dad about almost a year and a half later. So that was tough, dealing with that kind of grief. There's no right or wrong way to deal with grief. It's a real sneaky thing. And it comes in waves. Anybody that's lost anybody, you feel like you get over these things, and then it like all of a sudden comes and, visits you in a way that's when you're feeling vulnerable, and it really hits you and you cry, and which is all good. This is what it's there's no right or wrong way to grieve. So I don't know if we ever get over a loss of somebody, especially a parent or a brother or whatever. So like there was a lot of work that I had to do in processing that, and still within like my dad, stuff comes up, but I've just learned that the fundamental tools that I use are always the same tools to get me through anything. And what has really worked for me has been journaling, breath work, and meditation. Those three together really helped me. I didn't have breath work back then, but what helped me a lot was being able to get what was in my mind onto paper, and to just, without judgment, and to sit with the feelings that were coming up. And that was really powerful for me. And now being able to have breath work as like the catalyst to get, things moving and to connect to non-ordinary states of consciousness and all this stuff has been also something that's added a dimension to that. So when it comes to dealing with adversity, whether it's addictive behaviors, whether it's dealing with loss or grief, whether it's trying to get myself into a certain mindset with business, there's the same tools I use. It's just a different framing. And also things like, working out and moving the body and sweating and all of that stuff. Reading books and all that is great. But if I want to really be honest about the three things that I do, it's that. It's the self-reflection. It's the getting into the heart, getting out of the mind, getting into the body, and sitting with it. Eventually those feelings, that pain turns into love. It has nothing else to do but to turn into that the love, the transmuted pain into power, into purpose. Those have been powerful tools. And I wish when I was a young athlete, when I finished sports, this was where I was going to start with this, was like that was a big part of my life too, was life after sports. Once hockey ended, I felt like a nobody. I was lost. And that's where I got my validation from. That's who I was. And all of a sudden that went away. And I was like, who am I? Like, what is this? What is this life? Like, why? This is who I am. And so I wish I had these tools of self-reflection back then. And because there is an opportunity to reinvent yourself at any moment. You know this better than anybody. You've been able to do it in different ways, and it's so inspiring to see like all your journeys and the things you're creating. But it's like, in order to do that, for me, it's like I have to reflect. I have to be able to feel these things, understand them, and then choose aligned action into who I want to become, because we can sit and think and feel all we want. But one of the things that is most important is that you actually take the aligned action with what it is you're saying what it is you wanting to do. And so these are the things that over the years I look back in hindsight and go, oh wow, I wish I would have had these tools. I wish I would have been able to understand what was going on, and that there's lots of opportunity, and there was, I wasn't worthless. I wasn't just a hockey player. I was somebody that made it very far that most people don't. And if I looked at it through that lens and changed how I looked at it, which is the way I look at it now, I realized that, wow, what a journey. You learned so much. You look at all the skills you learned, but in the moment, I didn't see it that way. I thought I was a loser, and it took me years to get over that. Many jobs, many different ways. And I used alcohol to cope with a lot of that for many, many, many years. So now that's really been the most powerful tools for me. Breath work, absolutely game changer, as you know. Journaling, meditation, that helps me literally process everything. I know it sounds simple, but sometimes the simple things are the most powerful.
For sure. Yeah, and I think you nailed it on the head with the statement about how we need to feel what it is that's coming up for us, whether it's an emotion or whatever. It's coming up because it wants your attention, it needs your attention. And there's such a tendency for us in this society to numb with substances or whatever it is that gets you out of that funk even temporarily. And you're just ignoring that thing that's just going to keep coming up and keep coming up until you feel it. And like you said, when you just settle in, whether it's in breath work or in meditation or in journaling, and just feel it and not try and change it, just have that awareness around where it is in your body and what, if it has a color or a shape or a texture or anything. And it's amazing to me how quickly, after just bringing my awareness to whatever it is, how quickly it's like, oh, it's actually really shifted here quite quickly.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's fascinating how... Yeah, immediately we want to just take ourselves out of that moment and numb. And it's so easy to do. You don't have to be a crack addict or anything to be have these things, these insane addictions. We deal with them all day long. You can do it on social media. You can sit on Instagram. I found myself feeling like an addict sometimes on that app. And I have to be like, what is going on here? Or TikTok, it's like, what is happening? I'm not, what? It's really interesting to see. And same with food. It's like you start to have a bit of sugar and it's like, give me more of that. And it's like Netflix. It's just like understanding human condition and just knowing hey, is this actually going to solve this discomfort? And like you said, yeah, being able to recognize when you're turning to these things. It's okay to go and do those things, as I mentioned. It's okay to go on social media. It's okay to watch Netflix and eat junk food once in a while. But I think intentionally is different than just I can't handle this, I'm going to go do this thing. Or I can't handle this, I'm just going to drink. Or I just... and caffeine's the same way. This is something that I've been battling with also recently is how can I live without this stuff? Because I found that I'm sure a lot of people can relate. It's how is this affecting me, all this caffeine? Can I go without it? I'm always trying to challenge myself with these things, these substances or these behaviors. It's do I really need that thing? Because it's this never ending thing. It's I'm feeling a little down now, I'm going to have some caffeine. It's well, is that really what you need? So I think the awareness to these little discomforts that we all face is so important, and just, it comes down to that awareness of it. It's that thing again. Okay. What is it? What do you need right now? You talk to yourself. What do you need right now? Do you need that? You got to almost coach yourself through it sometimes. The little you, hey, I hear you. Do you need that right now? No, I don't need that right now. Oh, okay. So I think those kind of things can be helpful when you're in the moment.
Yeah, no, I love it. And I totally agree. So I'd love to chat a little bit about breath work here and what your practice looks like and okay, let's just give a hypothetical. So you're having a hard day, things aren't going your way, you get some bad news, whatever it is, and you're just kind of feeling in a funk. What does your breathwork practice look like in that moment?
Okay, so first of all, for me, whenever I do that first, and I'll get into the practice, no matter what happens in the day, it doesn't even seem like that big of a deal. So it's like almost my perception of life changes, and it feels like the stress of the world and all these things seem to happen when I don't prep myself for the day, like with the breath work, meditation, and journaling. It's like it almost gives me a different lens for life. So, and in most cases, when I get thrown curveballs, it seems to be when I don't do those things in the morning, like practices. But let's say I do it. So if I do it, and then let's say something comes up stressful later, like I get anxiety, which when I was in Bali, I had a couple of really gnarly instances where Bali's a portal, right? Ubud is a portal, a spiritual portal, and it will make you look at things that you don't want to look at. And I had some like insane anxiety because my ears, I've had this problem with my ears. It was like a wax buildup. I know maybe too much information, but I'll be honest. And it was like doctors couldn't really do much about it. And so I sort of lived with it. And sometimes they would go kind of clog, like I couldn't hear very well. And I was just like kind of whatever. And I found that inflammation, like whenever I had foods that like affected me and I was like, oh, my ears are closing up. It was like, must be something in that food that would like close. Cause it was like my ear canals are very small. And the doctor told me that. And I would always feel, I was like, uh-oh. And in Bali, I had this night was my first week. I couldn't hear anything and I had this crazy ringing going on. That was like, I thought like I had like really bad thoughts. I was like, I don't know if I can live like this. Like, I don't know if I can, like, it was almost turning me nuts. I was ringing in my ears. I couldn't hear. I was like, is this? And so you start to race, right? I started to race I started to get like a panic attack and I had to really calm myself down. And so I went back to, okay, all you have is your breath right now. You know, this works. You know that you can calm yourself down. This isn't you. This isn't true. And so I just did my breath. I started doing some deep, full connected breaths. And I just did a series of that. So I like to go deep through the mouth, fill the air full of the lungs full of air, and a light exhale. So effort on the inhale, relax on the exhale. And I sometimes do it through the nose, but if I want to supercharge it, I'll do it through the mouth. And so I wanted to move energy. I wanted to get out of the story that I was in because I was in this real panic. And I used to get anxiety when I was younger and I didn't know how to deal with it. Now I've learned to really deal with anxiety because a lot of it is food related. A lot of it is caffeine related. My gut bacteria, I've learned to really I understand when it comes and how to fix it. But this was a real sneaky moment because I had a little bit of food that was kind of suspect. It sort of triggered inflammation and I was like, okay, like I'm going to die here. Like I thought I started having, anybody with anxiety gets these like weird thoughts. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I can handle this. And so I breathed through it. I did this series of breaths until that panic kind of relaxed. And from that, I moved the energy and things started to calm down. The numbing, the ears got a little clearer. The ringing went away a little bit, enough so that I could sleep. So those moments, this was a prime example that stands out to me that when all else fails, when there's nothing else, you have your breath. Your breath is your friend. And you get out of your head and into your body, into your heart. it can change the whole game of how you're looking at life. And this can happen for me when, like I get stressed out during the day. Like, let's say, those days where it starts to snowball. One thing leads to another, and you're like, oh, one of those days. And you start having this conversation in your mind about it's one of those days, and the whole world's out to get me. And you know how we all go through that some days, right? For me, it's like, no, okay, let's get back into the driver's seat here. Let's reset. Let's just, okay. So I tune out, put my eye mask on, and I just do my breaths. I like to do my morning practice, and during the day is like, I like to do 20 in, 20 out. Then I hold it for 20 seconds, and then I do 3 rounds of that. And then I just allow whatever it is to come through. I'll ask, what does my inner guidance want me to know right now? What does my intuition want? What do I need right now? What does my inner warrior want? Like, whatever question I have, I kind of ask at the end of the breath, and I just allow it to come. And that will move me through most things. Yeah. So when it comes to breath work and meditation, and then I'll sit. I'll sit for, so my daily practice, I'm kind of jumping around, but it's the same thing that I do when things get gnarly. I do the same thing as I do in the morning and the afternoon if I have to, or at night. I'll do those 3 rounds, 20 in, 20 out, hold for 20 seconds. And then at the end of the third, I will sit in a meditation. I'll sit for usually a minimum half an hour, and sometimes an hour. Sometimes I'll do a Dr. Joe Dispenza. I'll do an hour and 15, hour and 20. But for me, minimum 30 minutes after, because I don't like to do anything less than that. It just, for me, that's, look, if I can't, sometimes you don't have that time, but that's ideally what I like. And that's enough for me to really reset and connect for myself, not only for the morning, for the day, but to move through anything that shows up. And what I like to say it is, it's almost like that breath work and meditation practice it's opening your heart, but it's like putting on armor around you of things that you don't want to get on your path. I feel like it's like I want to be, this is where I'm going, and I want to put up anything that is going to get in the way of that vision. Things will come through, but that's kind of the intention I like to have. It's almost like putting on your body armor for the day to be ready to go to battle, but also opening your heart, because you still need to have your heart open. So it's almost doing 2 things at once. It's closing off the things that aren't serving you, but then being able to open you up to the thing that you want to serve you. So that's kind of how I do it. It's not hard, but it has really helped me in moments of stress. And this is why it's important, I believe, to do it in the morning, because then everything else is easier later on. Like, nothing is as stressful, for me anyway. And I'm sure you kind of feel the same with that as well. It's like when you prep yourself, it's like the universe sort of just, I don't know, everything is just a little bit easier, It's like, or it's manageable. It's not as daunting, I guess you could say.
Yeah. For sure, I would totally agree, and I definitely feel it when I fall off that morning routine and don't get it in. Then I look back at the end of the day and like not feeling that good, and it's like, oh, yep, I didn't do my stuff, whatever it is that is my medicine. And yeah, it's happened all too often, because we are masters at coming up with reasons not to do the things that we know are going to be good for us. And I don't know about you, but I definitely have felt in my life is I resist the things that I need the most. And for me, I resisted breathwork for years. I knew there's going to be something there, but I resisted it. And then finally got to that sort of a tough point and went for a breathwork session. And it's been amazing since then to have that tool now, because you mentioned it, like it is the way we can influence our central nervous system. We can't unless you're like real guru, you can't consciously change your heart rate. But with your breath, you can influence your entire system. And it's just an amazing tool to have. So I'd like to shift just a little bit here. And yeah, just like you to just think about some advice for people to evolve and to grow through adversity. What would that piece of advice be for people going through it right now?
Going through it right now? Okay. I would say to just reflection, where are you at? What did we have to get out of victim mentality, right? Like we have to take ownership. And first step is awareness, and we have to look at it from an empowered perspective. And even there may be evidence to show that it wasn't your fault or somebody else or whatever stories there are, we have to own it because we're the ones that have to get through it. Nobody's going to do it for us. So I think there's a beauty in ownership. There's a beauty in like, look, we're here. I don't know how I had a big part of this, maybe external, maybe other people, other situations, whatever, but I'm here now. So how am I going to move out of this? Like what got me here? What are the things that I did to get me here in the first place? What do my habits look like? Like it's kind of reflecting on, first off, like how did you get here? And then it's like, okay. And it comes down to like, it depends where you are in your life too. Like there's going to be things like I mentioned, you're going to face adversity when you're on a mission. But there's also adversity you face from a lot of bad choices that you've made, right? So you have to be honest with yourself and where you're at, first of all. And everybody's life journey is different, right? But it all comes down to the choices that were made to get you to where you are. So in order to do that, in order to change, you have to look at changing the habits, changing the behavior, because what got you here didn't work. Right? And for me, I've had to be real honest with myself that, yes, adversity is here and this is all part of the big plan, but there was something that I did to get myself here. Like there was some things that, and this is the point of life. This is like, oh, okay, well, I got here and, if you don't make the wrong choices and you do everything perfect, well, then you end up with a perfect life, which nobody has. This is what it's about. So it's about looking at what got me here. What could I do different? What habits align with the person that I want to be? Like what does that person do? What does that person think about? How does that person act? How is my mindset? What am I thinking about? What's my most dominant thought? Like, do I keep thinking about things that don't serve me? Do I keep acting on things that don't serve me? I say I want this, but I go a different direction. This is the stuff about reflecting and being honest, taking ownership of, everything. What time do you get up in the morning? What are you eating? What are you watching? Like the basic stuff, you got to strip it all down and say, okay, here's where you are. It doesn't matter. You're not a victim. You just got to take where you're at, take complete ownership and look at what you can control. These are the things that you can control. You can control what you put in your mouth. You can control what you watch, which in turn controls how you feel. You can control what time you get up. You can control what you do with your time. You can control, so many things. And I have found when I focus on those things, the controllable variables, then I can surrender to the non-controllable variables because I've done my best. And there's something that the universe does. It like gives you a wink or a pat on the back. It's like you showed up for yourself. Like now, things are going to open up for you. But instead of focusing on the things we can control, we focus on what we can't. Like, the person running the country or this thing or that thing or the economy. And it's like, oh, things are so expensive now. Well, it's the wrong problem to be worried about. It's like, how do I become more resourceful, a more person of value so that I can make more money, so that I can serve more, so that's not an issue. And these are the things that I've had to go through myself. Instead of getting lost in the victim story, it's like, well, how can I create the story where I don't need to worry about that? What does that look like? And focusing just on these things, the simple, boring things that we can control are the things that make the change. And if somebody is struggling right now, get yourself a journal, get yourself a pen and paper, and start to reflect on the things that you don't like. First of all, you have to be aware of the habits and the behaviors that you don't like, that you want to move through, and then look at, well, what do I want to replace these poor habits with? How do I eliminate this thing from my awareness? Change your environment. He talks about this in Atomic Habits, about habit changing. It's like, you want to make the habit that you want easy to access. Like, if you want to read a book, put the book somewhere where you see it and you can read. If you don't want to do something, if you don't want to eat junk food, don't have junk food in your house. It's creating an environment that you can win. Right? Being honest with your environment, your habits, and then deciding, today we go this direction. Today we move through this. Today I choose different things, because no matter what adversity you're going through, you may be doing all the right things and you just got a roadblock. You just keep going through. Like you keep doing the thing. And this is the thing that I used to ask guests. I said, how do you know whether you're just supposed to keep going or you're supposed to pivot? Like, what is that point? Because you may be doing the right thing, but you're just at the point of the tests. Do you really want this? And only you can know that. You have to be completely honest with where you're at. Because I don't know everybody's life journey, right? But if you know that what you're doing daily isn't serving you, well, then that's why you have the problem. That's why the adversity is here, right? But if you know that you've been putting in the work, you've been doing the things, and things just aren't seeming to click, well, in your heart you're doing your best to control what you can control. So you just got to surrender and allow whatever needs to come to come. And the reason I think sometimes people get stuck is that the outcome that we think should happen doesn't happen as planned. So then we feel like it's not happening, like it's a failure or something. But really, you might be getting something bigger. It might be preparing you for something bigger. So this thing that you need to figure out is only a stepping stone to something bigger, right? So that's what I would say. And to break it down in the simplest terms, what is it you're doing that isn't working? What are some things that you can do that you can control, where you can start to build integrity with yourself, start to build confidence with yourself, and just build on that. And then things will shift. Things will shift. And whenever I feel like I'm falling out of control, I always go back to the basics. What can I control today? Okay, well, I can control what time I get up. Perfect. Win. I can control this. I can control that. And I'm not saying like be a control freak. It's just about the universe will throw you we can't control things, but we can control certain habits. And I think that is the most important if you're going through it right now, is just focus on the things you can control and surrender to the rest. And usually in most cases, things improve. That was a long answer to your question, but
that was great. Yeah, a lot of wisdom in there. And I think one of my big takeaways from what you just said is that, like, being in integrity with yourself and taking that radical responsibility for your own life and your own path. And if you say you want something different, then you got to take those steps. And saying you're going to do it and telling yourself that you're going to do it, then actually doing it is like, that's 3/4 of the battle right there. It's so funny how, let's just give you an example. So if I were to tell you, Lance, I'm going to meet you tomorrow, 10 a.m. at the gym, we're going to have a workout. I would show up at 10 a.m. tomorrow, and so would you. But if we tell ourselves, okay, I'm going to have a workout tomorrow, how easily we let ourselves off the hook, and then you fall out of integrity with yourself, and how quickly that can go in a negative direction. And so that's, definitely something that I'm working on. Absolutely. Integrity.
Man, that's so true. And I was thinking about that as well, actually. I think it was yesterday, about how, like when you have a commitment with somebody else, you'll show up. But then when it comes to yourself, it's like, it'll slide. It's so crazy how we do that. And I think that is like, it's such a big difference. It's almost like you have to create, especially as an entrepreneur, you have to have that part of your personality, your higher self, or like your own boss or your own coach. Because we have to coach ourselves in a way. You can have a coach. The coach is going to help you find things you don't see and help you pull that out. But you have to coach yourself to a certain degree, right? Because your coach can't be there all the time. And you, at the end of the day, no matter what a coach says, you have to do the thing. You have to take the action. So you have to have that inner coach that's sort of like, hey, you said you were going to get up today. You said you were going to start at 10. Hold yourself to that accountability, like as if it's your boss. And I think that's the edge that the people that really crush it in business and just not even in business, just in life, it's like, just do what you said you're going to do. Like with yourself, that integrity. And it seems it's always these simple things, like these things we say, but these are the most important. They add up. Because if you stack up all the times where you didn't keep that integrity, where you didn't keep the promise, and then you wonder why you don't feel confident or believe in yourself, well, it's because you've been sending that message to yourself. Hey, I said I would do this, but I'm not going to do it. So then when it comes to believing in a vision, it's going to be harder because you're not even committing to the things you said you were going to do, the easy things. So I relate with you, man, on that. And I think a lot of people probably can. It's like, man, those commitments, like you have to have your own inner boss. You have to have your own like big brother being like, hey, I know you don't want to do it, but like you said you would. Your supervisor, your inner supervisor, Yeah,
absolutely. No, it's definitely, it's like you said, it's simple and it makes sense when you talk about it. Putting it into practice when, you're in the game is definitely the challenge. Absolutely. But I would also say too, is to not overwhelm yourself as well, as to take, even if it's a small step, like whatever, like, okay, I'm not going to eat this tomorrow. And then when you don't eat that tomorrow, celebrate yourself and give yourself a pat on the back. Like it doesn't have to be huge things. So just start small and just, remain in integrity with yourself. When you were talking there about that, it's just like, I could just feel like the truth in my heart. Like that's where it's at. When you were talking about successful people and people that are killing it, they are in high integrity with themselves. Absolutely.
Well, yeah, you're just casting a vote. It's like this person does that. You have to know what that person does and behaves. And it's like, and I say this too, I have to catch myself. It's like, you're like voting for that person by doing that thing, that one little thing. And you're right. You got to celebrate the little things because the little things are the big things. But it's like that choice, that micro decision is casting a vote to that person and not to the old self. because it's so easy to cast votes to the person we don't actually want to be, but we're so used to the familiar. And the unknown becomes hard because we don't really know. But that's what it is. It's like you're just casting a vote. The little things every day. You know, that person that I want to be, they do that. That's what they do. So that's what I'm going to do. You know? And I think like those little things, those compounded habits. The Compound Effect was a great book too. It's like compounded over time. You don't see it, but then all of a sudden you get this like growth, this hockey stick growth. And if you can stick to that, those little things, eventually you look and you're like, wow, okay, now I'm seeing it. But I think a lot of people will get to that point where they'll quit before they get, what's that, like 3 feet from gold or whatever that saying is. And that's the test, right? And you're right. It all starts small. Celebrate the little wins, because those little wins, when you say you're going to do something and you do it, like celebrate it. Send that signal like, yes, woo. Like, that's who I am, because it's today. It's not yesterday. I did this today. This is who I am today. Tomorrow, I'm going to do the same. It doesn't matter what you did last week. It doesn't matter. It's just a past. It's like, now we learn. Now we do this today. So make it as easy as you can to do the simple things. Put your shoes, if you want to go for a run or go to the gym, have your gym stuff ready to go by the door. Have your water. Have everything ready to just win so you can make those small decisions. I'm literally speaking to myself right now, because this is what I've had to tell myself. Like, I'm like, if you want to wake up in the morning, have your protein shake, have your matcha, so that there's no excuses. Like, boom, get it up, go in cold shower immediately. No stories. None of it. Because this is what we need to do to get to step 2. If you can't get to step 1 first, then step 2 is going to be harder, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm going to use that, the casting votes for who you want to be and who you want to show up as, versus casting a vote for someone that you've been in the past and someone that you don't want to be. I resonate with that. I'm going to use that. That's great.
Yeah, man.
All right. So I'd like to just pivot here as we kind of get closer to the end and just ask you, just open-ended, how are you feeling about the world, humanity, where we're at right now? How are you feeling?
Very, very hopeful. Very optimistic, actually. If I'm being 100% honest, I love what is going on right now. I love that. I know that Canada is in a difficult position, but I think what needs to happen is happening. There's going to be a little bit of a switch of leadership soon, I think. I think within the United States, I think the last few years have been, crazy. And I really believe now that things are going to be shifting, and I'm very optimistic. I've always been optimistic, but it's hard sometimes to see what was going on. But more people are connecting to what matters within themselves, and I think if everybody just did that, we wouldn't have any problems in the world, but it's again, like it's everything's out there. And I think if we start in here, we'd eliminate a lot of the problems. So I think things are shifting. I think that people are becoming more conscious. People are becoming more aware. And from doing that, I think it's collectively rising. I think it's how you look at it, right? There's some people that'll say the complete opposite, say the world is terrible, blah, 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 blah. And sure, that may be true. Two truths can still live simultaneously, right? What do you think?
For sure. Yeah. It's a matter of perspective, and I share your optimism and hope for the future. I don't have any concrete, evidence to base that on, but this is what I think. So right now, the collective consciousness is rising. Like it is. And so as the consciousness rises to a higher frequency, lower vibrational things are not in resonance with what is happening with our consciousness. So that's why we're seeing so much chaos, so much disorder, and just craziness out there in the world, is because those things that are not in resonance with where we are being shaken to the surface. And now we have an opportunity to transmute that into something that is beneficial for humanity, because for far too long, it hasn't been about what's good for the people. And what's happening now is all those broken systems, the corruption, all of the things are being brought to the surface. And I feel really hopeful about our future. And it's certainly going to be a rocky ride. It's always darkest before the dawn, and all of these cliches. But that's what we're in right now, is we're on the ride. And it's a crazy time to be a human. There's 8 billion-ish of us here on the planet right now, the most that there ever has been. And I feel that's because we all chose to be here for this time, this great awakening, this whatever you want to call it. We all chose to be here, and we have a front row seat for history. I have no doubt that this time will be looked back upon for generations and generations as the time of just an immense amount of change, and we have a front row seat for it. It's not always easy. It's definitely a rocky ride, but I'm here for it, man. And I'm excited to hear that you share a similar view on it.
Yeah, well said, man. Yeah, the whole thing with like choosing to be here, man. Like, yeah, I mean, there's such a rabbit hole with like past lives and stuff that it's just like just bends my brain. And the fact that we are here and that we are human, and it's like we're only here for this like speck of dust of time, and yet it seems like a long time, but it's not. Like, and there's so many lives, so many realities, and so many parallels all happening right now. And it's like, I mean, that kind of thing it's crazy to me too. And I mean, it's like how there's different timelines. Yeah. And by what we do individually affects that. And it makes you wonder, like, how much of what I do actually affects everything? And then it makes me wonder, is this my own video game? Like, is this even, like, what is going on here? You know, what is this? Anyway, and like, yeah, it's the fact that we can even be aware of this, the fact that we can even have these thoughts and think about it and like disconnect from what we probably used to be in the years ago, as our families were disconnected, just part of the matrix, you know, growing up in the 80s and 90s and just the way it was, which was its own beauty in a way, but there was no other way. There was no like zooming up at a high level and looking at like what's going on from a conscious level, you know? So it's like such a gift to be able to be alive right now and have the awareness that we have. Because even that itself is just such a miracle. Like imagine not having the awareness. I mean, we've probably had it in multiple lifetimes where we just didn't even, and now we get to be here at this time in history where we can make changes and we can actually decide which reality we want to create. But we couldn't do that before, you know, because we didn't know, and we didn't, our powers were hidden from us. Anyway, I could go down the rabbit hole with that.
For sure. And I think coming back to technology, when we jumped on this call talking about technology and how cool it is that we're having this conversation, you're on the other side of the planet, and how amazing that is. And I think technology has a huge part in where we're at because of the ability to communicate with people from all over the world and our access to information that has been held away from us for far too long. And it's just a super exciting and crazy time to be a human. And just touching on the video game comment, I firmly believe that we create our own reality with our thoughts, words, and actions. And so this life is the most immersive video game you could possibly ever imagine. And how do we control our player? I think it's with our nervous system. And when you have a regulated nervous system, you're able to think positive thoughts and therefore create a positive reality. And so I just love that we've touched on some practical tools for people to be able to regulate their nervous system. So the journaling, the breath work, the meditation, all of those things are just, amazing tools to be able to regulate your controller so you can have this amazing experience in this, whatever this life is, however you want to think about it. So it's just, it's just a really cool time, and it's just been really, really cool to connect with you and hear your thoughts on these different topics. And it's been really, really an honor to have you on Collective Rising Conversations today. And just thank you and honor you. And I see you on your journey, and I feel you. And I'm just really thankful to know you and to call you my friend.
Oh, I appreciate you, dude. And I'm proud of you, man. All your stuff you're creating, and the podcast now, it's going to be big. And, the podcast is such a valuable tool for growth and connection with people. And I'm just so glad to see that you're on that road now, because it's life-changing. It's, and I'm grateful to be on, man. I'm grateful to have these conversations. I don't have as many anymore, and I don't interview as much anymore either. So when I do, I'm like, oh, I miss this. Because I used to do it all the time. Like, it was just nonstop, and I really slowed down, and I'm like, oh. So this is what it's all about. It's these conversations that can really shift things, and for the listeners, but also individually for us too. It's just such a great tool. So thanks for providing the space, man. And regulated nervous system is just, that's a whole other, it's so important. And I think that having tools, like you said, is just so important at shifting the lens that you look at life from. And man, grateful for all of it. Thanks so much.
Just I know I mentioned it before, but I have always resisted that which I need the most, and I resisted starting this show hard. So I know that it's going to be there's something in it for me, and I just love connecting with people and having conversations like this. And I'm just excited to people like you that are willing to show up and give their time and share their wisdom and experience with the world. So thank you for once again.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. Thank you.
All right. We will see you on the next one.